What's your name?
Bill King.
We're here at a breakfast where you are going to give us a little talk about some of the issues I think concerning probably not only Houston but the larger picture, the Houston metropolitan area. What are your thoughts as far as how the town is being run at this point in time?
So, look, we've got some fundamental problems. All cities do, but I think the problem here is we're not addressing those issues. You and I are talking about flooding, and this town's been flooding forever, and yet we're not addressing it in a very aggressive or proactive way, reactive all the time. One thing that really upsets me is, the voters approved this drainage fee about 7 or 8 years ago now, I guess, and it's $100 million a year of additional taxes we're paying. And by the way, it's a very regressive tax. Poor people pay it.
Explain that, because a lot of folks don't understand. We use the terms regressive and so forth, but it hurts mostly the folks of lower income. Is that right?
Sure, because this is added to your water bill. So if you've got water, you got to pay this, and it's based on the square footage of your property and how much concrete you got poured and all that. So a big fancy house might have a $20 fee, but just a regular person a $5 fee. Well, the person in the big huge house income would be a whole lot more than 4 times what a $5 fee is, and so it's disproportionately falls on lower income people.
Now, you also mentioned that as far as you're concerned, all the monies that are being collected for the flood remediation and otherwise aren't really being placed there. Is that a fact, or?
That's an absolute fact. Ted Oberg went in and got all the documentation through open records request of exactly how the money has been spent, and they collect about $100 million a year, and they spend about $50 million a year of that on drainage projects, and the rest is spent on other things, from salaries to mostly are people that have nothing to do with drainage fees. And I think everybody expected, we were all told it was going to be put in a lockbox and we're going to spend that money to fix flood problems, and we're not doing it. And there's flood problems all over this city that could easily be addressed with that money.
When we passed the bond, it was for flood control, is that correct?
Yeah, you're talking about the county bond.
Yes.
Right.
Now, as far as all these, the extra taxes that were collected, also that was specifically for floods.
Yeah. So you got to separate out two different things.
Right.
There's the county bond collection, and that money is those bonds are issued by the flood control district, and presumably they're only going to be spent on flood control. We'll see.
Right.
But legally, they're not supposed to be spent anyplace else.
But that's under the purview of the commissioner's court.
That's county commissioner's court, correct?
Yeah.
The city passed a drainage fee.
Right.
In 2010, I think,
right.
went into effect, I think, in 2012, and it adds, on average, about $5 to $10 to your water bill every month. And we've been collecting about $100 million a year under that tax, fee, whatever you want to call it. All comes out of your pocket.
Exactly.
Right? For the last 8 years, collected about $800 million. Now, we were all told that was going to go into drainage, but if you read the fine print, it says it can be used for other things as well, including 25% of what they call maintenance and operation expenses. So we're now paying for 500 public works employees that have nothing to do with drainage, nothing to do with drainage.
Are they needed at all?
Well, some of them are and some aren't.
Right.
But the point is, this was basically a tax increase to pay for City Hall instead of fixing drainage problems like we were all told it was going to be used for. And so, the public works director here, I think back in August, got up in front of a group and said the mayor had instructed her to try to get up to using half of the money, half the drainage fee on drainage. Well, that was never anybody's understanding.
Right.
We all thought 100% was going to be done. And so, if you go back to Harvey, we collected about $800 million from Harvey hit, about $400 million spent on drainage, the other $400 million spent on something else. Now here's the question. Had we spent that $400 million on drainage, how many homes would not have
Well,
flooded?
I can tell you quite a few. I can show points. I've been to some areas in Houston where the flooding was caused because of poor drainage.
Well, I'll tell you a great example of that is the Sims Bayou area.
Right.
So Sims Bayou, the federal government did a bunch of work on that bayou back in the 90s, county and the federal government. So Sims Bayou has not been out of its banks since 1994. It was not didn't come out of its banks in Harvey, and yet there were 6,800 homes flooded in the Sims Bayou watershed. And the reason they flooded is because the city's infrastructure is so bad at getting the water out of the neighborhoods to the bayou. So here you've got capacity in the bayous, and we can't get the water out of the neighborhoods fast enough to take advantage of the work that the county and the feds did. And look, I don't know how much of that could have been fixed with the $400 million had we actually spent some of that money down there, but I promise you some of it could. I mean, my guess is there were hundreds, if not thousands, of houses that would not have flooded had we spent all of the drainage fee on drainage.
And the sum total of those are quite a bit more than $400 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, more than $400 million.
And that's what we told people we're going to do with the money. I mean,
Right.
We made a covenant with the people to do that, and then we broke our word.
Right. Are you considering running for mayor?
I'm thinking about it very seriously.
What would be the reasons that you come back into the fold?
Well, there's two things. You know, the last time I ran, it was because I didn't feel like the city was delivering on its obligation to deliver the basic municipal services we expect a government to deliver. You know, the streets it's embarrassing how bad our streets are. Most neighborhoods never see a patrol car come through it, you know. More affluent neighborhoods can go out and hire private security or constable deputies to patrol the neighborhood. But, you know, in lower income neighborhoods, they just don't, I mean, they don't see the place, you know. And there's a lot of other, you know, the illegal dumping. The illegal dumping is rampant in some parts of our city. The city's not doing anything about that. So there's all these things. The city's not delivering on its basic services. And I've been thinking about why that's the case. And the more I've thought about it, I think a big part of the problem is this endemic pay-to-play that goes on with campaign contributions. I mean, if you look at campaign contributions to elected officials of the city, 70-80% of the money comes from people that are doing business with the city. And, you know, I think that introduces an element of corruption and catering to special interest that's endemic when you have that kind of system. So one thing I'm thinking very seriously about doing if I decide to run is to run a parallel petition drive to either ban or severely limit campaign contributions from people that do business with the city. I mean, look, the city's been run for a long time by and for the benefit of special interest.
Right.
And we need to end that. By the way,
Yes.
like 85% of Houstonians agree with that. The only people that don't agree with it are people benefiting from the system.
Absolutely. Now, here's an interesting thing, and I'm very curious where you'll come down on this. And that is, recently the voters approved that the pay increase for firefighters. And I've interviewed quite a few firefighters in the union. I've interviewed some cops. I've interviewed my council person, Martin. I am curious, where do you stand on what the voters decided they want to do and what Mayor Turner seemed to be doing?
So I had mixed emotions about B. There was no question the firefighters deserve a raise. I'm not crazy about that stuff being written into the charter and everything, but Turner kind of backed them up in their corner and didn't get much of a choice. You know, they got stripped of about $160,000 of retirement benefits per firefighter.
Right.
And so this is a result of that happening, which, by the way, Sylvester promised him he would never do that. And so this is a result of him breaking his word.
Right.
The firefighters have said repeatedly that they're willing to sit down and phase this in over a period of time so it's not, you know, an unbearable financial burden for the city. I can't understand why he's not doing it. You know, I think the difference is if you've got a business person, a manager, you understand you cannot be at war with the employees you're trying to lead. You know, if you're the leader of an organization, You have to lead by inspiring people. You have to lead by them believing you've got their best interests at heart. By explaining to them how important the job they do is for the residents of Houston. Now, look, I've never had an employee who worked for me who didn't think that they should be paid more.
Right,
You know,
right.
We all feel that, right?
Right.
But there's a question of fairness and a question of changing the deal on people that started all this. And instead of trying to make peace and bring everybody back together, all he's done is thrown gasoline on fire. It's the difference between a manager and a litigator.
Right. My biggest concern about this issue, and it's really not immediately financial, it is that the people spoke.
Of course.
The people of Harris County, of Houston spoke. And they said, give these guys this particular deal.
And just to give you an example. I didn't like Proposition A. I don't like Rebuild Houston. I don't like that whole model.
Right.
And I went out and campaigned against it. I advocated we ought to repeal this completely and start it with a new
I remember,
plan.
yes.
Look, the citizens of Houston didn't agree with me. They decided, look, this is better than nothing, you know. So look, that's been litigated. If I were to run and be elected, then I would be true to trying to make Rebuild Houston work.
Right.
You know, because that's what the people say. I mean, look, this is a democracy at the end of the day, you know. And to be trying to overturn the will of the people like this, as opposed to figure out how do I make this work, I think it's just wrong.
That is my concern on this particular issue. In closing, what would you like to tell folks who are going to be watching this online?
Look, I think we've got a great city. I think we have a city government that's not living up to the greatness of our city. And I think that we've got to make sure in this election that we put leadership in place, whoever that is, put leadership in place that's committed to solving the problems that everyday Houstonians are dealing with. You know, homelessness, their homes being flooded, crime, blowing out their tires on the roads when they're driving. I mean, this is what city government is all about, you know, not a bunch of other, I'm going to go out and solve every problem in the world. Let's fix the local stuff here. And we need to make sure that the leadership we put in 2019 is dedicated to that proposition.
Bill, thank you.
Thanks.